पंथराज श्रीमद्भागवतम की
जय।
और भक्तवृंद की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। पंथराज श्रीमद्भागवतम की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
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 नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Reading from Canto 4, Chapter 29, titled Talks Between Narada and King Prachina Barhi. Text number 53. Shudram charam sumanasam sharane mithilva. Raktam sarangri ganasamasulubdhakaranam. Agre vrikanasu tripo vigannaya yantam. पृष्ठे मृगं मृगया लुब्धकबाणभिन्नम्. क्षुद्रं चरं सुमनसां शरणे मिथित्वा. रक्तं सदङ्घ्रिगणसां सुलुब्धकर्णम्. अग्रे वृकन्नशु त्रिपो अविघ्नयान्तम्. पृष्ठे मृगं मृगया लुब्धकबाणभिन्नम्. क्षुद्रं चरं सुमनसां शरणे मिथित्वा. रक्तं षडङ्घ्रिगणसामसुलुब्धकर्णम्. अग्रे वृकाणशु त्रिपो विघ्नयान्तम्. पृष्ठे मृगं मृगया लुब्धकबाणभिन्नम्.
क्षुद्रं चरं सुमनसां शरणे मिथित्वा. रक्तं
षडङ्घ्रिगणसामसुलुब्धकर्णम्.
अग्रे वृकानसु त्रिपो विघ्नयान्तम्. पृष्ठे मृगं मृगया लुब्धकबाणभिन्नम्. क्षुद्रं चरं सुमनसां शरणे मिथित्वा. रक्तं षडङ्घ्रिगणसामसुलुब्धकर्णम्. अग्रे वृकानसु त्रिपो विघ्नयान्तम्. पृष्ठे मृगं मृगया लुब्धकबाणभिन्नम्. क्षुद्रं चरं सुमनसां शरणे मिथित्वा. रक्तं षडङ्घ्रिगणसामसुलुब्धकर्णम्. अग्रे वृकानसु त्रिपो विघ्नयान्तम्. पृष्ठे मृगं मृगया लुब्धकबाणभिन्नम्.
Prishthe Mrigam Mrigaya Lubdhaka Baana Bhinnam. What the word means? Shudram, on grass. Charam, grazing. Sumanasam, of a beautiful flower garden. Sharane, under the protection. Mithitva, being united with a woman. Raktam, attached. Shata Angri, of bumblebees. Gana, of groups. Samasu, to the singing. Lubdha Karanam, whose ear is attracted. Agre, in front. Vrikan, tigers. Acyuta, who live at the cost of another's life. Avignaya, neglecting. Yantam, moving. Prishthe, behind. Mrigam, the arrow, the deer. Mrigaya, search out. Lubdhaka, of a hunter. Baana, by the arrows. Bhinnam, liable to be pierced. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. My dear King, please search out that deer who is engaged in eating a grass in a very nice flower garden along with his wife. The deer is very much attached to his business and is enjoying the sweet singing of the bumblebees in his garden. Just try to understand his position. He is unaware that before him is the tiger, which is accustomed to living at the cost of another's flesh. And behind the deer is a hunter who is threatening to pierce him with sharp arrows. Thus the deer's death is imminent. Purport. Here is an allegorical story. Here is an allegory in which the king is advised to find a deer that is always in a dangerous position. Although threatened from all sides, the deer simply eats grass in a nice flower garden, unaware of the dangers all around him. All the living entities, especially human beings, think themselves very happy in the midst of families. As if living in a flower garden and hearing the sweet humming of the bumblebees, everyone is centered around his wife, who is the beauty of family life. The bumblebees' humming may be compared to the talk of the children. The human being, just like the deer, enjoys his family without knowing that before him is the factor of time, which is represented by the tiger. The fruitive activities of a living entity simply create another dangerous position and oblige him to create different types of bodies. For a deer to run after a mirage of water in the desert is not unusual. The deer is also very fond of sex. The conclusion is that one who lives like a deer will be killed in due course of time. The Vedic literatures therefore advise that we should understand our constitutional position and take to devotional service before death comes. According to the Bhagavatam 11.9.29, Labdva sudurlabham idam bahu sambhavante manushyam arthadam anityam api hadhirah turnam yateta napated anumrityu yavan nihishreyasaya vishayah khalu sarvatah syat. After many births, we have attained this human form. Therefore, before death comes, we should engage ourselves in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. That is the fulfillment of human life. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादां सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिकाकांत राधाकांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नम ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं। हरिः ओम तत्सत्। Hare Krishna. On my table there is a book. Can someone get that? My dear king, translation once again. My dear king, please search out that deer who is engaged in eating grass in a very nice flower garden along with his wife. That deer is very much attached to his business and he is enjoying the sweet singing of the bumblebees in his garden. Just try to understand his position. He is unaware that before him is a tiger which is accustomed to living at the cost of another's flesh. Behind the deer is a hunter who is threatening to pierce him with sharp arrows. Thus the deer's death is imminent. Okay. So we are discussing this chapter which is called as Talks Between Narada and King Prachina Barhi. In this chapter, basically, we see that in the beginning, Prachina Barhi says that you have given us a very nice allegorical story, my dear spiritual master Narad Muni. But because I am too much attached to Karma Kanda, I am not able to understand what you have said. Which the great people understand, but I am not able to understand. So please explain me in full detail. So then Narad Muni explains all the allegories. Who is Puranjan? Puranjan is the living entity. City is the body. The 9 gates are the body with the 9 openings. Puranjani is the material intelligence. Male friends are the 10 senses. Female friends are the actions of the senses. Serpent with the 5 heads is the life air. And the 11th dendant is the mind, that is the leader. And the Panchala states are basically the 5 sense objects. So in this way, Narad Muni explains all the allegories and tries to tell him about the nature of the spirit soul, how he is wandering, and the wandering causes him so much pain and suffering. The wandering is compared to that of a dog, dandam odanam evava. Sometimes the dog gets punishment, sometimes the dog gets food, but the dog is a dog. A dog is a very sinful animal. But at the same time, dog life, when surrendered to a Vaishnava, becomes very glorious. So a dog's life in its own self is considered very abominable. A dog, when he sees a tulsi plant also, he will urinate on the tulsi. When he sees a shivling also, he will urinate on a shivling. That is dog life. So the human or the material existence rather, not just human existence. Material existence is like a dog's life. The material nature will beat the pulp out of us. Little bit sense gratification it will give, and then it will again beat like anything. And no one cares for a dog. So there is no escape in the Vedas if one is simply performing karma kanda, the only solution is to surrender to Krishna. And Admuni advises that bhakti has to be done through the via medium of Guru. And where will the bhakti take place? Only in a place where Krishna Katha is being spoken, the bhakti will take place. And then Narad Muni urges Prachina Barhishat to end all his ritualistic ceremonies, performances. And they're saying that this will not help. And then, after hearing all this, Narad Muni was trying to convince him that immediately you please take to the process of renunciation and devotional service. But Prachina Barhishat was thinking, okay, what you have said, Narad Muni, is clear. I need to give up this ritualistic path. But what to do? I have sent my son, the Prachetas, to do austerities. Let them come, or maybe I'll send my minister and ask them to come back. And when they come here, I will hand over the kingdom to them. Until then, let me continue. How? I am the only ruler here. I am the only maintainer of this kingdom. If I go away, how will it function? In my absence, how will the world run? So Narad Muni saw that he's still not fully convinced. Then Narad Muni gave the final blow. He started this allegory of deer and the hunter and the tiger. So here, the deer is grazing on the grass, enjoying with his mate in the garden which are full of flowers that are aromatic. So the deer here is compared to the man who is absorbed in household life in the company of his wife. The wife can be compared to the aromatic flowers. The deer can be compared to the man. And the aroma which one is feeling in the garden itself is the household life. And the aroma which one feeling is the sex life. It is said that his ears are attracted to the songs of the bumblebees. So these songs can be compared to the talks of the wife and children. He moves about without considering before the hungry tiger which is in front of him. This hungry tiger can be compared to time. Time doesn't care for anybody, it just devours anybody. Just like a tiger is waiting to pounce upon. Similarly, time is simply waiting to pounce upon, and then it will devour him. And also there is a hunter behind him ready to shoot him with arrows. This hunter can be compared to death, which can strike at any moment. Or the superintendent of death, trying to kill him from behind. So this is the basic allegory. Now let's discuss it in full detail. Purport. Here is an allegory in which the king is advised to find a deer that is always in a dangerous position. Although threatened from all sides, the deer simply eats grass in a nice flower garden, unaware of the danger all around him. All the living entities, especially human beings, think themselves very happy in the midst of the families. As if living in a flower garden and hearing the sweet humming of the bumblebees, everyone is centered around his wife, who is the beauty of the family life. So when we enter a garden, what do we generally want to do? What is the first thing which comes to our mind? Let's relax here. Let's feel the nice aroma of the flowers. Let's feel the nice air. Let's feel the water droplets coming from the fountain. What is this called? This is called sense gratification. Even a great austere person, you take them to a garden, they'll feel like relaxing. When you imagine yourself also relaxing, you imagine yourself in a beautiful garden. So this garden is compared to family life. A person who is not very careful, see, a devotee in the morning when he enters a garden to pluck the flowers for doing worship of the deity, he is very careful. He doesn't get lost in the garden. Once Ajamil went to a forest garden to pick up some forest flowers for the worship of the deity, but he got lost. He started being fully engaged in seeing a third-class woman engaging, or a prostitute engaging with a fourth-class man. So in a garden, all kinds of things are there. So he got lost. And so therefore he forgot the purpose why he came, for picking of flowers and going away. So he got lost in that garden, in that forest. And then we know the history, how he engaged in sense gratification in a very abominable way. So similarly, sadhakas, when they enter, even if there is a sadhaka who enters the garden of family life, he is very, very careful. He knows that the aroma and the nice flowers and the nice view which is in this garden is all meant for the Lord, not for me. Actually, the Lord is the maintainer of this garden. I am not the only maintainer of this garden, and therefore he uses everything in the service of the Lord and uses the facility in the garden, that is nice flowers, nice aroma, to make a very beautiful altar, and in that way he dedicates the garden or the family life to the service of the Lord. But when a person is not careful, he starts doing sense gratification in that garden, thinking, oh, these flowers are for me. He will sit like this, he will smell a flower and he will say, dance. Or he will smell a flower and he will say, bring me this, bring me that. And this is called sense gratification. And then what happens? Just like a deer. Deer also likes likes a place like a garden. So the deer gets lost there. Deer's tendency is always to get lost. Especially when the deer hears a very nice music. If you want to catch a deer, you go to the forest, just play some nice music. It will automatically come to you, and then you can capture and kill it. That's the nature of a deer. So here it is being told, although threatened from all sides, the deer simply eats the grass in a nice flower garden, unaware of the danger all around him. All living entities, especially human beings, think themselves very happy amidst the families. So somehow, even from childhood, when we are fondled in the laps of our parents, the so-called love and affection which a child also receives from the mother and father makes him forget the pangs of birth and death. And even a child starts thinking, oh, this world is a very nice place. And when the child grows up, he develops further attachments. Swajana palana kori ek mane bhuli no tumhare hari. And the only aim of his life becomes his swajan. He starts thinking, my family is my own self, my extension of self. And the only purpose of my life is to maintain this family. And then in the process he forgets Hari. And when he forgets Hari, he starts living in illusion. And he is unaware to see the danger which is all around him. As if living in a flower garden and hearing the sweet humming of the bumblebees, everyone is centered around his wife, who is the beauty of the family life. The bumblebees' humming can be compared to the talk of the children. So one feels very happy. That this beautiful aroma, these nice flowers, they are the representative of the wife. They very much attract. And the bumblebee sound is compared to the sound of the children. And a materialistic householder derives so much pleasure out of these two things, from the wife and the sweet talks of the children, that he is ready to sacrifice his eternal soul just to be entrapped in that situation. So therefore it becomes very easy for the hunter to hunt the deer. The hunter knows the weakness of the deer. Just play some nice flute music. No need to run behind the deer. It will automatically come and you can just kill him. So the hunter here is compared to the time factor. The hunter here is compared to the death factor, and the tiger here, it's the nature of a deer. You play a nice music and you play a tiger in front of the deer will not care for it. So this is a bad tendency which a deer has. Even if this bad tendency is used in Krishna's service, it becomes good. Otherwise, this bad tendency is of no value. In the Krishna book, we see the gopis, they are telling that the wives of the black deer, when they hear the sweet flute of Krishna, they forget their husbands and children and they come near Krishna and they are completely charmed by him and they simply stand next to him looking at him. What does this mean? The gopis are telling us that the general tendency of a Jivatma is to get lost in this material world. One should use this tendency of getting lost in the material world by using it to get lost in the name, form and qualities and pastimes of Krishna. The deer, when it gets lost in the sound of the flute of the hunter, it gets killed. But the same deer, when it gets lost in the sound of the flute of Krishna and goes and stands next to it, always looking at it and being fully charmed by it, that is called dovetailing one's tendencies in Krishna consciousness. So I have a tendency of getting lost. So let me get lost in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Otherwise, why will the gopis say this? The wives of the black deer, after hearing the sound of the flute, come and stand next to Krishna, forgetting their husbands and their children, charmed by his appearance, simply looking at him. The gopis are telling that this deer-like tendency which we have, which is oblivious or forgetful of the death factor or the time factor, this should be used in bhakti. While doing bhakti, we should forget time. We should not look at the watch while we are doing our japa or when we are doing any service. Similarly, we should not think about life and death while doing bhakti. Prabhupada says, for a devotee, living and dying is both the same. So this reminds me of a very nice story. So there was a sage who was walking on the road. He met 4 people. He met a prince, he met a brahmachari, he met a hunter, and he met a devotee. To these 4 different people, he gave 4 different blessings. To the prince, he blessed, may you live forever. To the brahmachari, he blessed, may you die as soon as possible. To the hunter, he blessed, may you neither live, neither you die. And to the devotee, he blessed, whether you live or whether you die, it's one and the same. So the purport of this is, the prince is engaged in sense gratification. He is in this flower garden. The moment his princely life will end, he will go to hell. So the sage is telling that may you live forever, may you never go to hell, may you continue to live like this, may you have a long lifespan so that you will be at least happy. Although it is not possible, but the sage wishes good, that may you have a long lifespan. A brahmachari who is under the order of his spiritual master doing various austerities, he is already entitled to go to the Brahmaloka. So the sage wishes that, okay, why you want to stay in the planet Earth? May you die as soon as possible, go to Brahmaloka, associate with Lord Brahma and enjoy life there. Brahmacharis who strictly follow the Brihad Vrata of serving the spiritual master and the life of celibacy and austerities, they go to Brahmaloka if they are not devotees. There can be brahmacharis who are not devotees, right? Mayavadi brahmacharis. So the sage blessed them. May you go to Brahmaloka. The hunter was blessed. Neither you live nor you die. Because if you live, you will kill animals. That is very sinful. And if you die, you will have to suffer the sins, results of the sins which you have done. So it's better you neither live nor you die. Go in coma. Something like that. And for the devotee, he blessed whether you live jivo va maro va. Whether you live or whether you die, it's one and the same. Because while living is the right point. Jivo va maro va. So whether you live or whether you die, it's one and the same. Because while living, he is chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram,
Ram, Ram Ram, Hare.
And after dying also he'll be chanting
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
So death for a devotee, Prabhupada explains, says in a lecture, death for a devotee means he'll just close his eyes and wake up in front of Krishna. So death doesn't mean anything for a devotee. Right now he is with Krishna in the form of his holy names, and after dying he will be with Krishna. There is no difference between the person Krishna. He'll be with the person Krishna and now he is with the holy name Krishna. So therefore, this tendency of the deer-like tendency is there in all of us. This is only meant to be used in spiritual life. Getting lost in chanting, japa marathons, getting lost in reading, hearing, serving. One should forget the time factor while rendering devotional service to Krishna. Because devotional service is timeless. Ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. The devotees of Lord Chaitanya, in the presence of Lord Nityananda, they used to do a lot of kirtans. And there are various instances described when Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda would start doing kirtans. So many people would come and they would take part in those kirtans. They would forget who they are. They would forget what is their name. They would forget whether they had some families or not. And for 2-3 days continuously the kirtan would go on and on and on. And people would not eat, people would not sleep, people would not do anything, simply chanting Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
And after 2-3 days they would be saying Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya. And then they'll realize, oh, I have a family. I came out to buy some milk. I forgot. 3 days has happened. I don't know. I should go home. That is the effect of devotional service. So this deer-like tendency is not to be utilized in family life, but it is to be used in devotional life. There is another mention of deer which comes in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sometimes deer represent good luck also. When Akrura was passing through the forests, going to meet Vrindavan, going to meet Krishna in Vrindavan on the order of Kamsa, he saw that the deers were passing on his right hand side. So he said, because the deers are passing on my right hand side, I am pretty sure that today I will get darshan of Krishna. So this is just a point. That deers, when they pass from the right hand side, it represents good luck. So the human being, just like the deer, enjoys his family life without knowing the time, without knowing before him the factor of time, which is represented by the tiger. So the tiger, we know how it hunts. The tiger has a heavy body. And it has very soft paws. The speciality of the tiger is that when the tiger is coming towards the prey does not even realize. And it's not that the tiger will hunt only in the daytime. The tiger hunts in the night also. When the tiger starts running and pounces upon someone, the tiger's weight is around 200-250 kgs, and it runs very fast. So the momentum, mass into velocity with which it pounces upon you, it makes your bones chutney. What does it make? It will simply cry. You will not be in a position. That attack of a tiger is like this, that you will not realize where is it coming from. And when it will attack you, you will just become immobile, and within few seconds it will just catch your throat and kill you. So the attack of a tiger is very sudden. And in most of the cases it is 100% success. That is death. You will not know when it is coming. It is around you, loitering around you, very close to you, but you will not realize. And all of a sudden it will attack. And when it will attack, you will nobody will be in a position to take any step, any measure against it. And within a moment, Nitai Gaura Guru. So we have to learn how to die. This reminds me of a caterpillar. A caterpillar is there on one leaf of a tree and wants to go on another leaf of the tree. So the Bhagavatam says, while going from one leaf to another leaf, it is not that the caterpillar leaves one leaf completely and then goes on another leaf. No. It holds on to one leaf and then goes on to the next leaf. Similarly, the living entity at the time of death holds on to the subtle body, holds on to the desires, holds on to the present state of existence. Even when the body is dead, the soul wanders around, keeps seeing its dead body, keeps seeing their relatives crying. And in that way, even after death in the subtle body, for a good amount of time, it retains the past aroma of the previous life. And then it goes, just like the caterpillar holding to the previous leaf goes to the next leaf. Similarly, the spirit soul holding on to the previous subtle body goes on to the next body, not knowing that this activity of holding to the subtle body is the cause of the next body. Death means physical body falls down, subtle body wraps the soul and takes to the next body. Liberation means physical body falls down, subtle body falls down, pure spirit soul goes back home. So, death will come like a tiger at any point of time. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada, in the translation, Prabhupada says that the tiger is accustomed to living at the cost of another's flesh. So the death is accustomed to killing people every now and then mercilessly. Mrityu. In the 4th canto, there is a king called Vaana. The grandfather of Vaana is Mrityu. The mother was Sunita. I don't know, some of you may remember. So Bhagavatam says that Vaana became so merciless hunter, merciless killer, that when he used to go out to play with his friends, simply for fun he used to take his own friends and kill them like a hunter at a very small age. Why? Because he was the grandson of Mrityu. This is the nature of Mrityu. The Mrityu, or death, is very merciless. Death will not care that, okay, here is a very big public servant and here is a great politician or here is a great saint, or no. Death means death. Of course, there is a spiritual way to understand death. The death of a devotee is like a cat holding the kitten in the mouth. And the death of a non-devotee is like a cat holding a rat in the mouth. So, one should know how to die. One should not die like a caterpillar, holding on to one leaf and moving on to the next leaf. One should die remembering, again, every living entity has this caterpillar tendency. But instead of holding on to our samskaras, we should hold on to the names, form, qualities and pastimes of Krishna at the time of death. Just like we have to become a deer in the process of bhakti, similarly we have to become a caterpillar in the name, form, qualities and pastimes of Krishna at the time of death. If we really want to hold on to something, hold on to the chanting of Hare Krishna, hold on to the beautiful form of Krishna, hold on to the memory of Krishna, pastimes of Krishna, qualities of Krishna. Hold on to that. And then we will see that Krishna will take us back home, back to God. And then death cannot affect us, just like Dhruv Maharaj. Because he was always remembering Krishna and never forgetting Krishna, when the Vaikuntha Viman came, he offered his obeisances to the Vishnudutas, Nanda, Sunanda, and also to the Viman. Paraphernalia of Krishna is not different from Krishna. He is leaving this material world. Nobody leaves the material world without dying. Have you heard? Anybody? Without dying, anybody is leaving? That means the time of death is also here. But he is not bothered. He takes permission from the Vishnudutas, goes and have bath. Not bothered. He is chanting Hare Krishna, putting tilak all over his body. Not bothered. Then he goes to the various devotees, saintly people in and around that place, takes their blessings, not bothered. And then when he's about to step onto the Vaikuntha Viman, the death is coming. Not bothered. Dhruv Maharaj simply puts his feet on the head of death and then goes on to the Vaikuntha Viman. That's how a devotee dies. He puts his feet on the head of death and goes on to the goes ahead into the spiritual world. That means death wants the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees on his head. That's called a glorious death. So this is how we have to die, and we have to practice this from moment to moment. One of the names of Krishna is Madhupati. He is the Lord of Madhu, honey. And one of the greatest honey or the greatest nectar is within us. That is the false ego. And Krishna really likes to steal that honey, destroy that honey, break it and eat it. And when that honey, the false ego, gets destroyed, it is like death. It feels really bad. So therefore, moment to moment, we have to practice this death. So that when the actual death comes, we will not be trying to save our Madhu, but we will be only thinking about Madhupati. Otherwise, life will be very difficult. The tiger will come and devour us. The fruitive activities of a living entity simply create another dangerous position and oblige him to accept different types of body. For a deer to run after a mirage of water in the desert is not unusual. The deer is also very fond of sex. The conclusion is that one who lives like a deer will be killed in the due course of time. Now the time factor comes. That is the hunter. So the deer has this tendency of getting lost. And time passes by. The Bhagavatam says that from the rising of the sun to the setting of the sun, everybody is simply losing their time. Only those people who are engaged in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. They are not losing time, they are utilizing time. Those who are not engaged in devotional service, they are wasting time. Those who are engaged in devotional service, they are utilizing time. And those who live like a deer will be killed in due course of time. Why? Because they will not even realize how the time has passed. There is a nice material analogy which will help one to understand how time passes. This is given by Albert Einstein. He said that when somebody sits with a beautiful girl in a park for 1 hour, they will feel it is only 5 minutes. But when somebody sits on a hot stove, on a pan which is put on a hot stove for 5 minutes, they'll feel like it is 1 hour. Yugayitam nimishena chakshusha pravishyayitam shunyayitam jagat sarvam govinda virahena. For the gopis of Vrindavan, Yugayitam nimishena, every nimisha, every moment used to appear like 12 years in separation from Krishna. Why? Because they were on the fire of, they were inside the fire of devotion. So the goal of life is to enter the fire of devotion and expand the time. If we do not enter the fire of devotion, then the time energy will contract and we will not even realize when death has come. But if we enter the fire of devotion, then every moment when we are going to chant Hare Krishna and remember Krishna, we are going to feel separation from him. And then every moment is going to appear like 12 years or more. And in that way, one will actually understand how time is passing. And they will be very, very eager to meet Krishna. But if one becomes a deer in the forest fire of material existence, then just like that time will pass and the hunter will come and kill it. But a devotee simply waits for death. But a materialist is always surprised by time. Time factor surprises a materialist, but the time factor matures a devotee and assists the devotee in the union with the Supreme Lord. So therefore, one of the primary characteristics of devotional service is avyartha kalatvam. A devotee never wastes even a single moment. Anyways, he has entered the fire of devotion and he is feeling yugayitam nimeshena, moment is appearing like 12 years or more. So he has expanded time and he is utilizing it very nicely in the service of Krishna. Otherwise, one will be just being engaged in this eating, sleeping, mating and defending, and the hunter will come and kill. So therefore, the Vedic literatures therefore advise that we should understand our constitutional position and take to devotional service before death comes. After many, many births, we have attained this human form. Therefore, before death comes, we should engage ourselves in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. That is the fulfillment of human form of life. So therefore, the Acharyas, they very nicely sing, Hari Hari Bifale Janam Guainu Manushya Janam Paya Radha Krishna na bhajiya Manushya Janam Paya Radha Krishna na bhajiya Janiya Shuniya Vish Khayo Janiya Suniya Vish Khayo Hari Hari Bifale Janam Guai. So the Acharyas are singing that if I do not engage in the worship of Radha and Krishna, even after attaining this human form of life, then it is like knowingly, Janiya Shuniya. Everybody told me this is poison, I knew this is poison, but I drank it. Janiya Shuniya Vishakhani. So therefore, human life is only meant for rendering devotional service and nothing else. The sooner one realizes it, the better will be their gantavya or destination. And if one does not realize it, then they will simply become that deer which is running after the mirage in the desert, thinking that it is water, and the deer having this tendency of being absorbed and lost and using it in the wrong place will run and run and run and ultimately die. Either it will be killed by the time factor, the hunter of the time, or it will be killed by the death of the tiger. So in this way, we have to understand, just to summarize, that this material world is like a garden, illusory garden, full of illusory aromas and full of illusory sweet sounds of the illusory bumblebees. One should be very alert like a sadhaka, enter this garden only to collect paraphernalia for the worship of the Lord and not do sense gratification in this garden. Whatever is there in this garden has to be used in the service of the Lord and not try to enjoy this garden. One should be eager to hear the sweet singing of the holy names of the Lord rather than the sweet talks of their children. One should be eager to smell the aroma of the tulsi leaves offered to the flower rather than the aroma and the beauty of their wife. And one should understand their dangerous position all the time. One should be not unaware of the fact that the tiger of death is any time waiting to pounce upon and surprise me. One should always be prepared. One should always be prepared for death. One should always be fully mature enough in their Krishna consciousness, so that if death comes today, I am ready to remember Krishna at the time of death. And one should very nicely utilize their time in the service of Krishna. Otherwise, the hunter of time will come and it will kill us. Death is there, hunter is there, everybody is there, everything is there. This material existence is a very, very precarious situation. Padam padam yat vipadam natesham. One has to understand that there is a lot of danger in every step. In fact, there is danger in between two steps also. So one should be very, very careful. And they should engage themselves before the next exit from this platform, that is death, comes. Before a lot of time is wasted, one should engage in transcendental loving service of the Lord, and that is the fulfillment of human life. With this, I would like to conclude today's discussion. If there are any questions, comments, reflections, they are welcome.
Thank you, Anish, for the nice class. It was a very instructive class and words to remind ourselves. And a few points I liked it. The tendency of deer getting lost is also in me. Not a lot of people getting lost in some material things or like this. So this tendency we have to use in devotion service by the mercy of the Lord. If we can get that tendency, getting lost in the Harina, not seeing, looking at the clock when it will complete. During Bhavatam class, this tendency, that eagerness should be there. And the next point, like a human life is only meant for devotion service, not for any other thing. The analogies which you mentioned, very nice, perfectly. This point of Avyakta Kalapam, devotee never wastes any time. We will see the service of the Lord. So these are the few points which I'm taking. And one question previously that Dhruva Maharaj story I have not yet heard of it, but heard he stated on the dead person. And who is that dead person?
Mrityu. Not Yamaraj, Mrityu.
Generally here, like dead person means Yamaraj. So that's.
He is the superintendent of death, but not the death. Death is Mrityu. If you read the fourth canto, in the beginning chapters, the genealogy of the daughters of Manu, there you will see one of the daughters actually gives birth to Mrityu. Mrityu is a person. The potency of the Lord which kills everybody is Mrityu. But after Mrityu, Yamaraj takes over. Yamaraj decides what will happen, how it will happen. Death comes. Death is compared to Krishna, not Yamaraj. Death is compared to Krishna. But after death, the person who takes over and deals with the spirit soul, that is Yamaraj. This is my understanding. But it is more or less synonymous. That when death comes, sometimes they show in some movies, Yamaraj is coming, or Yamadutas are coming. But they have to wait for the time of death. So the death is a separate entity from Yamaraj. And in Dhruva Maharaj's purport we see death personified, that inner potency of the Lord which keeps roaming around everywhere, taking away everybody's life. That had come in front of Dhruva Maharaj and he stepped on it. And he went to Kala Shakti. That is different from Yamaraj. Yamaraj is a Mahajan who takes care of people after death. This is my understanding.
So this point was very nice, that for a devotee living and dying at sea, whether he is on the material world or a spiritual world, he always associates with Krishna, either in the form of name, form, or anything. And then one should get lost on the name of the holy name, not in material life. One should not get too much attached to the material life. Rather, he should actually, if he wants to get lost, he should get lost on the holy name, form, and called pastime.
डिवोटी अगर कोई गाड़ी में जाता है तो फ्लावर को देख के भगवान को गले के लिए सोचता है, लेकिन अगर कोई नॉन डिवोटी जाता है तो खुद को एंजॉयमेंट करने के लिए सोचता है. और डिवोटी और मेटलिस्ट का वही डिफरेंस है. और एक मनुष्य जीवन जो मिला है तो सिर्फ भगवान का सेवा करने के लिए मिला है नहीं, वो और भी बहुत सारा हम लोग बहुत सारा एंजॉयमेंट करके आगे अभी मनुष्य जीवन में किसी का अपने बताया सॉन्ग बताया मनुष्य जीवन पाया दीवानी से नाव बजिए।
Hare Krishna, it's one nice slokas. Some points are that bhakti will take place only where Krishna Katha is recited, and where devotee, for a devotee where dying or living is both are same. Here we can explain so many devotee stories, starting from Gaura Kumar, though he was a potter, while making pots, he remembers only Krishna. That's how we went to Pandharpur. So he remembers only Krishna. Even the child crawls, he crushes his child under his feet. That means he is totally involved in Krishna only. And again, about when it comes to garden, I remember about Anantalvar, who constructed garden for Seva Lord Balaji. And it's a big story, no need of explaining. All devotees live like that. Hare Krishna, thank you.
So regarding Anantalvar, there is a very famous story in the garden only.
Yeah.
The same garden of material life becomes abominable when used for sense gratification, but the same garden when built for the Lord becomes so auspicious that even the Lord has to be careful. So the Lord was coming along with his consort every night in the garden of Anantalvar, and he was playing. And in the process, some flowers were getting spoiled. So Anantalvar was thinking, who is spoiling this? So one day he woke up and he hid himself and he saw that the Lord is coming and doing. So he went and scolded the Lord. These flowers are meant for you only. If you will spoil, then how will I make the garland? And how will your seva go? So you do whatever you want, a little bit carefully you do. You please don't spoil the flowers. Now you have spoiled the flowers for tomorrow, I don't have any flower for you. So then you have to suffer now, because if no flower, I will feel bad. I will not be able to give you a garland. So therefore I will tie both of you as a punishment. This is the sentiment of a devotee. He is attached to his service to the Lord in such a way that even the Lord, for him, his only relationship with Guru and Krishna is through his service. So, this is a very, very nice sentiment which we all have to cultivate. That when the service attitude progresses very nicely, this material garden becomes such a spiritual garden that even the Lord cherishes it along with the devotee. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Granthraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki.